Hello guys, my name is Firdaus. I am co-hosting this civil engineering workshop today with our amazing civil engineer, Ferdi Jafar. Would you like to introduce yourself, Ferdi?
Hi everyone, my name is Ferdi and I've been a civil engineer for the last 3 years and I'm currently working for Bain& Mikkel Partnership Limited, which is a civil engineering and structural engineering consultancy based in Birmingham. So a little bit about me, graduated in Coventry University 2017, started officially working as civil engineer 2018 and I've been working ever since and mainly been working on commercial sector. So basically warehouse sheds. We've done some apartments as well and offices. And we've done also some residential schemes like, let's say we're in Birmingham City Center and on the, let's say, Harborne area, those houses will be classed as residential. So I've worked on these schemes as well. So many various schemes we've worked. And the only scheme we have not worked as a civil engineer is the power plant. So basically nuclear stations, power stations, these kind of stations, which is more specialized. But all in all, it's a well-rounded position that I've got now. Like we're working more and more commercial. So apparently
Okay.
that's what's driving the industry right now.
Okay, and myself, I am actually a recent graduate in civil engineering from the University of Birmingham. I'm currently doing my master's in Glasgow, at Glasgow University. So I'm just here to facilitate this workshop and give you a perspective from a student point of view, which I believe some of you may be students today. So let me just explain the basis of this workshop. So it's going to be a Q&A style where I get to ask Ferdi questions about his experiences as a civil engineer. And because it's an interactive workshop, you are more than welcome to ask questions. If you do not want to use your mic, just if you type it in the message and then I can read it out to Ferdi later on. And if we have time towards the end, we can do an open floor where everyone can just unmute their mics and have a conversation with us. We believe this should be lasting about 30, maybe 35 minutes tops due to the late start. But if anyone has any questions, just type them in the message box and I will read them out to Ferdi later on. So
Thank you.
The first question we have here is, so you've given us a brief introduction. So Ferdi, we want to know what are the different routes after graduation for a civil engineering students? What are the options that there are?
So civil engineering is a broad aspect area, and depending on what degree you've done in university, because you've got structural engineering and civil engineering, which structural falls under the civil engineering, funny enough, but a civil cannot be structural, if that makes sense. So you can go down the structural engineering route where you can basically design all the loadings and let's say the sizes of the columns and beams of a building and the foundations. You can go down the civil engineering route where you basically design drainage levels, specify where retaining walls are needed, do some earthworks. So basically calculate how much we're digging, how much we need more soil to put back on site. And you can go down the project management route, which can involve the quantity surveying, acquisitions, all this kind of stuff. But usually they would like some civil engineering experience beforehand so they can know what they're dealing with, if that makes sense. So it's like a step up. So you can work as a 1-year civil engineer, gather all that knowledge, the basic knowledge, so become well-rounded. So you know a tiny bit about drainage, tiny bit about earthworks, tiny bit about like the utility services. And then you can go down the project manager route where you just basically manage the projects. And these are basically the 3 different routes. Then you go down into the specialized routes where basically if you become a civil engineer and then let's say you join a geotechnical engineering firm where basically you get more involved in geotechnical testing, you do some site investigations, you do slope analysis, earthwork analysis, and all these kind of things. So if you don't join a civil engineering consultancy, then probably you would be more like specialized. So basically, it can be retaining sheet piling specialized. For example, you design only retaining walls involving sheet piling, or you can be a geogrid specialist engineer. So it becomes more specialized as you go within the civil engineering uh, tree, let's say, where the structurals is once you get the basic fundamental, pretty much everything is the same because what you've learned in uni in the structural engineering will be applied in day-to-day life, with the only difference is that you have to do loads and loads of drawings at the beginning just so you can understand what you're building. So all these calculations that you've done in the structural engineering module will be implemented in your structural engineering career, but whatever you've done in the any other module will not implement it directly in your civil engineering career. Let's say if you get a civil engineering job, it will be more provide you the foundations to be able to understand everything else that you will do day to day. And the specialties routes, probably they just hire a graduate and they start him off and then they become specialist. So what you decide depends on what you would want is like to do. If you want to design bridges or let's say buildings, then I would go down the structural engineering route. But if you want something more, let's say, challenging regarding problem solving or like finding a workaround to make it better, civil engineering route. And if you like managing, then just go down the project managing route.
Yep. So Ferdy, you're in the civil engineering. So you took the civil engineering route. So tell us a little bit about your day-to-day activities in the office, what kind of things and tasks you get up to.
So before I show you some example of works what I have to do day to day, my father, when he described what civil engineering was, he told me that actually I'll be just signing off how much material, like concrete, will be required for the structural aspect. And I cannot believe how wrong he was about this, but I cannot blame him because I'm starting to love more and more civil engineering for what it is. So basically, day to day, what it will involve. It started all, let's say, with levels. So basically, when we do the survey module in uni, that module will it's basically creates the topographical survey. So basically, a company will go out and survey a site, and let's say this is the site. So the red line is the boundary. Apologies for the delay for zooming out. Let's zoom out a tiny bit. So the red line, let's say, is the site boundary. The client is looking to purchase a site and they go to us. So we've done a topographical survey. So they investigated the site. So you can see all these great text, existing trees, etc. They're there. And they go and the architect provides us, let's say, with a drawing, a site layout. And for example, they want to build this warehouse unit here. So all I have to do is, for example, is look at the existing ground, what do the levels do, and then define a finished floor level for the building. So, and then from there, I work out the rest of my levels. Once the rest of my levels I've worked out, I then jump in and start designing the drainage. So basically how the water and the foul will be drained from the side. So that would require, I would have to speak with a CCTV survey company, which is a company that inspects existing sewers. So basically they put a camera under in the pipes and they inspect it, like the directions and the sizes and everything. And based on the information I get, I design my network and then I decide, okay, all this will drain into this network that goes here, the dark blue. And once this is designed, which is these are the core two elements, then we would submit it to the council for planning. So prepare the appropriate documents with it and reports, for example, a flood risk assessment report, and then or a land quality assessment or demolitions scope of works. So I prepare all these reports so we can submit for planning. And once planning has been granted, so basically they tell the client, okay, you're good to go, you're good to build, then we go into more detail to design, to produce more technical drawings, for example, the curbing layout, where we tell them, like, here you're going to put a half batter curb, or for example, you need a tactile crossing here between those two crosses. And then we do an earthwork analysis So basically, based on the site investigation that the specialist engineer did, he will provide us with a borehole logs, which probably you've seen in uni and they told you how to read it. And then what I would do is create a ground model, and based on their report, I will be like, okay, this blue material needs to go. And then I calculate how much material needs to be filled to reach the level that I decided that is required for the site. And I produce these drawings so we can provide them to the contractor so he can price the job. And once all the contractors who are bidding for this job price the job, they win the job, and then we produce the drawings for construction. So as you can see here, this drawing is for comments and discussion because it was during a discussion phase. But once we're finished, we just change the comments for this and discussion, we change it for construction. We also produce manhole schedules. For example, all the drainage that I put the coordinates, the direction of the pipe, the how deep they are, the type of cover they require, the manhole sizes, etc. And this is a drawing for the earthworks, which then you can export that 3D model, and the contractor puts it in his 3D in the machine, and that machine will dig based on the 3D model we've provided them. So the more accurate you are, the best. So all in all, it's more of like going along with the project as the project life itself. And then what you have to do is just produce the drawings that they require during the project life. So for example, if they're looking to buy a site, we need to do some studies. So we go through any public available information, for example, the government website. We look if it's in a flood risk, and then we put a report, go back to the client, we tell them your site is in a flood risk, therefore you should pay attention for this. You might require some pumping, or you might require some flood defenses, and then the client can decide if he wants or not. If he says, okay, we're good to go, then what we do is we prepare the drawings that are required for planning application. So this is regarding civil engineering. There is way a lot more into that, but they're more detailed. But on and all, this is basically the whole concept. We prepare the drawings and the reports required for the project to go forward and be completed, basically.
Okay, so there seems to be a lot going on here in your day-to-day. Some technical skills, some soft skills. What do you think is one of the most important skills that someone who wants to be a very good civil engineer should possess or work on?
So one of the most important skills you need to have as a civil engineering is the ability to visualize a drawing.
Hmm.
Reason being is if you cannot visualize something, like see it in your head in 3D, then it will be hard for you to understand the 2D aspect of the drawing. For example, here we are proposing a retaining wall. If you cannot visualize how this retaining wall will work with the existing building, then it will be harder for there will be a room for mistakes if you're not able to visualize it. Therefore, a visualization of the drawings is very important aspect. And the second thing is to troubleshoot, because civil engineering is not like, yes, it is common sense, but it's not as straightforward. Like you always come into problems. For example, levels might not work, or your drainage network might be flooding when you're running the simulation analysis. So you need to find a way to make it work, basically, and not to solve the problem, but make it work. Because once you make it work, then you will find out what was the problem, and then you can work backwards from there to make it even better. So troubleshooting and visualizations, these are the two important things, in my opinion, regarding the top skills that civil engineering should have. Because if you're able to visualize, then that's it. That's the first step. You can see it. If you cannot visualize it, then I don't know how you'll be able to present it to someone else who's not able to read a drawing.
Okay, so in terms of now career-wise, career aspects and prospects for potential civil engineering students and civil engineers and graduates, can we talk a little bit about chartership, what it means? I know a lot of universities push that onto students as the next step for career enhancement, but what is your opinion on chartership and what does it involve and what is the reality about it?
Okay, so the reality about the chartership is to say you get the title, first of all. So you get two additional letters. You've got some letters next to your signature. So let's say, Ferdi Jafar B-Eng, and then I will get, let's say, a ICE, for example, Eng Tech, if I'm an engineering technician, or like IEng, yeah, engineer, incorporated engineer. So with that, what does it come? I would say it comes more responsibility from what I've seen from other people and just a higher salary. But that higher salary, don't expect it to be crazy, like, oh, 10, 15K more. It's just like if you were a civil engineer, they'll pay you, let's say, 24 grand. And they'll say, if you're a charter, probably they'll pay you 26, 27. But that is just once you get it, and that's it. It's not like you will have more perks. Actually, the quite opposite. You will have more responsibility because as a chartered engineer, you got chartered and then you have to continue developing throughout your career and prove that you actually deserve that chartered title. It's not they're going to come and strip the title away from you, but you have a title to live up to, if that makes sense. It's not like you study hard for the 4 years and then get your chartership and then that's it. You chill and lay back, be like, got my chartership, got my 3,000 extra, and that's it. There is more responsibilities. You have to manage graduates, etc. So I would say if you want to do the people who want to do the chartership, they must be sure they have many aspirations, like they want to be like in the top group of civil engineers. But if you're an engineer that looking to make a living and basically your hobbies are different and civil engineering is not what you love, then just being a civil engineer, and you don't have to go through the extra hustle of going through the chartership, because at the end of the day what would happen is you will have to spend your afternoons like filling out forms, putting documents together just to prepare for the chartership. And the big companies such as Atkins, Arab, they encourage the graduates to do the chartership. I think to the level I would say force kind of thing. It's like they must do the chartership. So basically, because they're such big companies, they have a prestige, an image to maintain. It's like, oh, all our engineers are chartered, if that makes sense. But you might know that you might notice that actually a chartered engineer in one of those big companies might not be in the same level as an engineer who's been working for a family consultancy, a family-based business. Why? Because when you work in a big company, you get pigeonholed. So basically, they put you in one specific aspect. Some companies they do the rotation like 3 months every aspect, but then you become, let's say, only pavement design. So when the time comes, you want to leave the big company and go to a small company, like just because it's closer to your house or it's more friendly environment, and the big corporation environment is not what you not your thing. Then when they ask you, can you do levels? They go, no. Can you do drainage? No. What can you do? Only pavement design. Well, that is not enough. And they might have just acquired their chartership based on the pavement design, because the chartership, they're going to test you, yes, as a well-rounded engineer, but they will be more focused on the area of your expertise. So if you become a geotechnical engineer, they'll be more focused on the geotechnical engineer aspect, if that makes sense. So chartership, do it only if you aspire to become like a top civil engineer. Otherwise, I would say enjoy your afternoons and don't spend them on like studying and filling out forms and putting together reports and everything. So that's
Okay.
my personal opinion on that.
Okay, excellent. I think that's most of the questions that we've covered. Is there anything else you'd like to add further before we open the floor for some questions?
If you're looking to graduate, what I would say the key factor is, yeah, it's nice to join a big corporation company, like because there is more graduates, more people around your age. But I think the most important thing is to find a good boss, because a good boss will teach you, and he won't give you just tasks like just do this and then you have to go ask other senior engineers how to do that. He will like explain you why you have to do this. But I was lucky enough throughout my career, I've changed many jobs, and that the one reason was because I didn't like where I was, or I had the idea if I keep changing jobs, the next job will offer a higher salary just to match the previous, which was partially true, but then it has the downside of like questioning your loyalty towards your position. Like, for example, oh, you stayed here 6 months, you've stayed here only 1 year. So I would say just try to find a good boss. Like, so tell them, like, I want a good mentor that will help me grow as a civil engineer and not just understand the technical aspect, but actually the business aspect as well of being a civil engineer. Because even let's say you graduate from uni, like with distinction, right? If you don't know how the business runs, then you're not going to go far as a civil engineer. You can become the best civil engineer regarding calculating and everything, but as running the business, you're not going to go far. So depends what you want. If you're going to become a researcher, then yeah, go ahead and continue down that route. But if you want to become like a top civil engineer, then you need to know how to become a businessman, and to get that, you need a good mentor. So my advice is find a job where you can get a good mentor, like a good boss that will guide you throughout.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I think the beauty about civil engineering is there's so much room to grow and learn. And one of the best things is it's not just about what you learn at university, like Ferdy has just mentioned. There are things you need to learn on the job as well. I've learned so much more in my summer internships than I have than in my, in my lectures. And that's just telling you that civil engineering isn't just about the technical aspect, but so much more. There's so much more going on behind it. So my advice as a student and as a aspiring civil engineer would be to take use of any opportunity that comes across, such as these workshops, seminars, whether it's a consultancy coming in to do a talk, or a civil engineer coming in to do a talk about a particular topic, even if it's a topic you're not particularly interested in. I think it's important to open your mind to various aspects of civil engineering, and that would help you grow and learn so much more. And you never know, you might even find something that you never really thought you were into, but then you happen to want to get into that in the future. That was the case for myself. I just wanted to be a structural engineer, and then I discovered the water side of things, and I did my dissertation in water engineering, and I enjoyed it so much. I'm doing my master's in sustainable water. Things take a turn like that, so it's just important to keep an open mind, and just take every opportunity possible. I don't think we have any questions right now for us. Oh, we do. Okay, so we have a question here. So it says, based on your experience, what would you say are some of the biggest day-to-day challenges a graduate engineer should be aware of at the start of their career? I think, Ferdy, you're the best one to answer that since you have more experience.
The biggest challenge was understanding why. That was my biggest challenge, because it's not like being on time or dress appropriately or know how to talk with people, etc. That obviously they teach it to you from home. Like, it's like when you grow up, like your family, your parents, when you go out, this all they get it from home or from the like part-time job that you had. The biggest challenge is understanding why are we doing these things. For example, climate change is a big thing now in civil engineering. So every job that we're looking at drainage, they go include climate change. When I asked how much climate change percentage I should include, they told me 30. When I asked why, nobody gave me the answer. I was like, why are we doing 30? Where is that 30 coming from? It's like, did it come divine from God? It's like God said, and 30% shall be. No, it's not like that. It's like I had to dig through documents to find out the answer. So I would say, as a graduate engineer, always ask why. Never just accept just an answer. That's how it is. Ask why, find out why, and that way you will become a better civil engineer. Because as soon as you know why, that might help you solve other queries that you had. And always ask, and try to build relationships by with more of your seniors, so they can help you out, if that makes sense. Because if the seniors, let's say you become really friends with them, then they can help you out. Like they would go out of their way, because they see you as a friend, to help you understand better. For example, I had good seniors that they even introduced me slightly to the structure element of designing foundations. So basically, we were hanging out at lunchtime, and then I just pitched him. I was like, hey, how about I talk with my line manager and tell him that you're okay with you teaching me structural engineering once a week for an hour. He goes, why you want to do that? I was like, I just want to understand slightly structures, because I cannot keep designing my drainage around your structures without knowing why are you doing the way you're doing it. And he goes, okay. So create good relationships, and always ask why and find the answers. That's what I would say. These were the struggles as I started as a graduate engineer.
Amazing.
The other one would be landing a job, obviously. Because now
Landing a
apparently it
job.
seems like you're a graduate and they're asking for 5 years of experience. Now you're a graduate only for 3 years, so that's 3 summer placements. So how can you help? Can you have 5 years of experience? It's practically impossible. I've seen job posts that they ask that we're looking for a graduate experience with 5 years of experience. I'm like, that is impossible. Unless they count their uni years as experience, then yeah. So to land a job, my advice is understand how a project works. So during the interview, if they goes like, tell us your three, or what's the question they usually ask? The three strengths of your personality. And what would you say instead of saying, "Oh, I'm hardworking, I've got a can-do attitude, etc." You can say, "I've got a good understanding of a project life cycle." And that will put you slightly ahead from the person who said, "I learn quickly, I have a can-do attitude, etc." Because it shows to them, to the employer, that actually you know what involves regarding project lifecycle. Therefore it's much more easier for you to understand every other concept that comes with it. So if you understand that you're the client, you're looking to buy a site, therefore you go to engineer to ask, for example, how much would it cost me to build this? The engineer comes up with a rough figure, and then it goes back to planning. And then from planning, you know you have to go to tender. Basically, we look for a contractor to try to price the job for us, and then we go to construction. If you understand this aspect, then you're already one step ahead. But then if you understand the applications that comes with it, for example, divert the sewer or adopting a highway paperwork, all this, then that puts you even 2 steps ahead than the other person. So what I would say is a good website to have a read and understand more and more about civil engineering rather than the university documents is Design Wiki Build. I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me look it up for you now, guys. I'll put it on the share screen. Design Wiki. Designing Buildings Wiki. That is a good website, and apparently it's sponsored by IC or supported by IC. So basically, let's say you want to learn about drainage, you just search drainage, and you can read through here and get a better understanding of everything. Once you have that understanding, you can you can answer that question of what's your 3 strengths as a person. You can tell them, I've got a good understanding of the project life or in the construction industry, instead of saying I'm a hard worker. And I guarantee you that it will increase your chances in landing a job. So that is my advice regarding like the struggles of a graduate engineer, is landing the job and then everything else that comes with it. But other than that, everything else is sweet. The salary, if I'm still updated with the current trends, is usually from 20 to 26, 28 some places as a graduate engineer. So if you're a single and living on your own, it's a decent salary. So it's a good start. So from there, you can do all the bucket list that you had. So I would say it's a good start to be a civil engineer as a graduate. And then you can change to whatever you want if you don't like it.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Ferdy. Unfortunately, that's all we have for today. If there are any further questions, if you can just drop us an email, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you so much for joining us today, and that will be a wrap for today.
And we will, this session was recorded, so we will upload it on YouTube. And if you have any further questions, we might as well just do another workshop further down the line.
Yeah.
So thank you for those as well for preparing all this for us.
Thank you for organizing this.
Hopefully everyone found this useful, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.